I think I need, I need my glasses. That's
Do you want to be on the outside of?
Oh, yeah.
You want to be on the outside of Jackie?
I think that's nice.
Yeah.
but this isn't, this is, this is
Right.
into the planet.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm still listening.
I am too, but. I don't care what people say.
All right.
Parts of words disappear. Parts of faces disappear.
My eyes.
This is very bad. Keep going. Go down it.
Yeah, that's right.
Good morning. I'm Gwen Hughes Severance, a member of the Worship Committee. My pronouns are she and her, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all in line or in person to the Unitarian Society of New Haven. Thank you for taking the time to be here now. And as we settle into this hour together, I have a few announcements. If you're visiting us for the first time, or perhaps new enough to USNH, that you have questions about Unitarian Universalism, our congregation, please grab a cup of coffee or tea in the social hall after the service and join the welcome table, which is sponsored by the Connection teams. And if you have any questions you'd like to email, just email them to Libby Michaela Johnson at membership@usnh.org. We welcome all ages to this space and know that there's a place in the back with activities and comfortable seating. The sounds of young people are appreciated as the voices of the future. And know also that the first pews over here on my right, on this side of the sanctuary, are set aside for those people who are wearing masks. You are, of course, welcome and invited to wear a mask anywhere in the sanctuary, but should you sit there, it's required. This summer, we have a joy that I'm going to put here. This summer, thanks to an anonymous donor, the flagstones will be placed in the brick patio, and some of these bricks can be engraved to honor former ministers, interns, staff, and deceased congregants. Look for the table in the social hall to learn more about that. A joy, Tanika Drummond's, the Waverly community, and the Waverly USNH partnership are happy and relieved. Rev Stephen Randall and Reverend Ray K. Randall, co-ministers of St. Paul UAME, which is located only 2 blocks from the Waverly townhouses, have offered space in their church each Tuesday from 5:30 to 8 p.m. year-round. This will make weekly programming that the children have depended on for 30 years possible again. Today is the final day to sign up for small group ministries for spring. There are sign-up sheets at a table in the social hall, and you can sign up online using the link in the Thursday's newsletter. And today there will be a climate revival after worship in the social hall from 12:15 to 1:30 p.m. All are invited to attend and participate. I want to remind us all that the ongoing work of our community requires our collective effort, our shared generosity. Ushers will be available in the back of the sanctuary after the service to receive plate donations. You are also invited to text a donation as explained in the order of service, or to mail a check here to 700 Hartford Turnpike in Hamden. However you choose to support this community, your generosity is sincerely appreciated. And now Beth is going to share a stewardship testimonial. Beth Bauer.
Good morning again. My name is Beth Bauer, and my husband Mark and I have been UUs for over a dozen years and members of USNH for just about 2 years now. But in that brief time, we've managed to jump right in. Mark is on the management team, I'm on the stewardship team, and last year I taught 7th and 8th grade OWL. We've also racked up several small group ministries. We put in hundreds of hours calling and writing postcards with our congregation's UU The Vote group. And we've been amply rewarded in return. We felt welcome here from the start. The Connections team quickly introduced us around and made us feel welcome. Everyone here made us feel welcome. The Sunday morning team lured us in for after-service socializing, and they still keep us caffeinated and perky. Each Sunday morning, we look forward to being in this beautiful space. We look forward to great music, inspiring messages, and the comforting presence of all of you. When I reflect on what makes me grateful for this congregation, one particular moment stands out. Last November 6th, the evening after the election, dozens of us gathered in the sanctuary to light candles, voice our heartache and fears, and sing songs of courage and hope. Many of us arrived feeling paralyzed with despair, and left feeling uplifted by the spirit of this community. Now, amid the daily din of a regime driven by exclusion, meanness, and hollow might, I am proud and heartened to be a member of a community centered in love. Alongside all of you, I uphold the values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. And I know we will find ways to support each other and make good trouble together in the face of the inhumanity and injustices around us. So here I am. I confess I've been known to wonder out loud why the heck I'm on a stewardship team once again. Spreadsheets leave me cold. I'm really just a new kid, and there are so many of you I still don't know. And the phone has never been my friend. But as I was writing this testimonial, the answer became crystal clear. Stewardship is about taking care of something we value and helping it thrive and grow. So, like for many of you, being a good steward gives my life meaning. As a family member and friend, as an educator, as a gardener, as a responsible citizen, and as a member of this congregation. I pitch in and I pledge because I stand with you all on the side of love. I believe in the power of this community, and I want to nurture and sustain Unitarian Universalist values for future generations. Stewardship is for all of us, and it includes all of us. That's the message our team wanted to send when we asked you to help us choose a theme for this year's pledge drive. Many of you responded online. Even more of you voted in person, including several young people from our YRUU group and even pint-size attenders helping their responsible adults. The theme with the most votes, the theme that we chose together was, drum roll please, do we have a drum? Thank you. Together, stronger than ever. So many thanks, and yes, together we are and can be, will be stronger than ever.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you to the whole stewardship team. But if you think about it, every single one of us need to be on that team, or this isn't going to work. We are stronger together. So we light our chalice this morning with the words from the great Unitarian lay leader, Marjorie Montgomery. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. And Gwen's going to introduce our hymn in just a moment. And as we have a new tradition during the hymn, if there is an especial joy or sorrow in your heart, please come forward. You can place a stone in the water or light one of our candles. We invite you forward. Gwen, if you'll announce our hymn.
Pastoral support is offered through our pastoral care team. If you or someone you know is struggling and could use support, please reach out to the pastoral care team at pastoralcare@usnh.org or call the office to contact Jamie Ross, our congregational administrator. We hold space during worship each week to remember that amongst us there are always some folks who are experiencing a joy or a sorrow, as well as others who are especially, There are those who are experiencing a sorrow or difficulty, as well as others celebrating some special happiness or joy. Here are two bowls, some stones, and some candles. One bowl is to hold your joy. The other bowl is to hold your sorrow. If you have a particular joy or sorrow, I invite you to come forward and place a stone in the bowl. If you are experiencing a particular joy, come forward to light a candle. And we will do this while we are singing the hymn, number 12 in the gray hymnal, O Life that Maketh All Things New. So please rise as you are willing and able to sing hymn number 12.
May this congregation hold all the joys and uplift them so that they may be all our joy. May this congregation hold each sorrow, each worry, that they may be lightened in our collective. I remember so strongly back when I lived in Sarasota, Florida, on the Gulf of Mexico. Tiny acts of rebellion. How I would go out walking on Sarasota Bay, on the beach, and on the nights in late July, in August, September, and even sometimes in October, where the temperature was just right, you could watch as literally millions of creatures would bioluminesce in the moonlight as they were agitated by the movement of waves. Putting a foot or a hand out among them, it sort of felt like putting a hand out into the firmament of the universe and stirring up stars. The same microorganisms and algae that glowed so brilliantly, if the temperature rose just a few more degrees, would disappear into a cloud of a different kind of algae that would cause what we call a red tide. This algae would release toxins into the water. These toxins would kill shellfish, some types of fish, and would cause an absolutely putrid, awful smell to fill the same beach. And I used to walk on those nights wondering whether we were destined for a calm, cool show of bioluminescence, or whether we were destined for a red tide. And the difference between these phenomena was literally only a few degrees. Now, I saw this week a chart that showed that the red tides have been happening more and more and more. And so I sat with that for a little while, because there is so much evidence of rising temperatures. But what I wound up thinking was about the temperature of our human hearts, and how when our hearts are at a moderate, natural temperature, we too are capable of spreading a kind of glow around ourselves to others, a kind of glow of love, of caring, something that's very natural. But I realized that when our hearts raise a few degrees in temperature, that toxicity of a red tide is something that is also natural. It happens. But when our hearts, when our moods, when our general disposition raises by just a few degrees, we also begin to release toxicity into the world around us. And it's a delicate balance within ourselves that mirrors this delicate balance in nature. Red tides are natural, but they're happening more and more as the climate warms. Spreading love and care is natural. It is also natural to feel ire and even hate, but we must not give in to a rising temperature around us, literally in our atmosphere and internally in our hearts. For I believe that The earth itself and humanity are on parallel paths, on a beach and in the waves just off the shore. And rising temperatures can cause a kind of toxicity both in our planet and in ourselves. Let's cool it down a few degrees, everybody, and let's do this together. Would you please join me in singing children, any children that are here on to their religious education classes, with words that are in your order of service, "Go now in peace." Let's sing them on their way. Go now in peace, go now in peace, may the Spirit of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace, may the Spirit of the Lord surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Thank you, Jesse. We come now to our covenant. We are a community of many beliefs, perspectives, many opinions, gathered together by our commitment to holding a space excuse me, that's inclusive and supportive and responsive, both to each other and to the wider world. It's that commitment, that covenant, that is the foundation of our life in community. Each week we recite together a brief version of our written covenant. While the following words express our intentions in writing, the covenant comes to life in the choices, the actions we take with each other. Please join me now in reciting the words that appear in your order of service or in the chat on the live stream. We covenant together to create and nurture a culture of respect and kindness, and to engage in the spiritual and everyday practice of living more generously. To this end, we will strive to be open, value differences, listen deeply, use kind language, speak our truths, work with humor, seek humor and joy.
It's been a pretty brutal month. Are you ready for a story, maybe that'll warm the cockles of your heart? On the sixth day of creation, Archangel Gabriel says, "What's your newest project, God?" And the deity says, today I'm busy making something really new. I'm going to call it Canada. And it's going to be featuring sparkling lakes, trout in flowing clear streams, bears roaming the great rising mountains so green, and long, beautiful vistas of grass and grain and clean air, the most beautiful, beautiful land I've ever created. And then I'm going to fill it full of kind and gentle and generous people. And Gabriel says, "Don't you think you're giving these Canadians too much?" And God says, well, wait until I tell them who their neighbors are going to be. The English poet Michael Rosen, in 2014, reflecting on the experience of his family in the Holocaust, wrote this poem. I sometimes fear that people think that fascism arrives in fancy dress, worn by grotesques and monsters. It doesn't walk in saying, our program means mass importations and transportations, war and persecution. No, fascism arrives as your friend. It will restore your honor. It'll make you feel proud. It'll protect your house and give you a job. It'll clean up your neighborhood, remind you of how great you once were, clear out the venal and the corrupt, and remove anything you feel is unlike you. I found that a really powerful poem. But it turns out that you can announce mass deportations. And turns out you don't have to bother clearing out the venal and the corrupt. You can just hold it out there. I call this an editorial because I feel like we need to give the sermons room to reflect the totality of our spiritual longings and yearnings, and we must respond to the moment. But if I did that purely from the cultural onslaught that we're enduring, I would do nothing. And I can't give that much of my soul or this pulpit over to them, even as we answer them as best we can. But we must leave space for the beauty that I believe that will lead us home, and to resist the onslaught of what I believe is American fascism. And it's real, and it's on our doorstep, and it may be knocking on our door in ways we only are beginning to understand fully. And so, yes, this society will answer that call as well. That's really all this editorial is trying to say in a short compass, is we will do both. We will meet and answer the moment in its desperation. And we will also preserve our souls so that we may take the ideals of Unitarian Universalism, the ones that Beth talked about so beautifully, and hold them dear and nurture them and say, here we stand. And because it's Climate Revival Day, I can't think of a better way than Charles Ives Thoreau. Thank you, William.
Thank you, Bill. Please turn now to number 492 in your gray hymnal in the Living Tradition, and we will read responsively the reading Fragile and Rooted by Carolyn Owen Toll. That's number 492 in the gray hymnal. See a blossom in your mind's eye, allow it to fill the interior of your imagination. Slide down its humid surface until you drop as the dew into its velvety core. Such fragile beauty gives impulse to weep. Marvel that this creation, while utterly fragile, yet undaunted, boldly buds forth, turning resolutely toward the sun. Vulnerable, still we venture our lives courageously towards hope, and light at once fragile and rooted. Thank you. Choir now.
Thank you, William, and thank you, choir, as Christopher recovers from getting COVID and the flu at the very same time. We send him our best as he recovers. I started preaching about climate change about 30 years ago. Maybe a little slow on the uptake, but faithfully. I look back at about 5 of those sermons recently, thinking about this sermon and the sermon I'll deliver on March the 9th. I thought, maybe I'll find good, rich, wonderful stuff. It was like being in a time machine, going back into that old Stephen talking about the world in which we now find ourselves. And it was daunting and it was poignant. And I found just a pittance, really. So much of what I had to say then doesn't apply the way I'd imagined it would. I was very idealistic. And I was very rational. These were really intensely scientific sermons, just full of information and statistics and the Kyoto and Paris Accords, and it was all there, although I was actually talking to folks that were totally with me. And out of all those numbers and statistics, stuff like a turkey at Thanksgiving, I believed then that rationality would carry the day, that we would somehow summon the vision and the willpower and the national and international effort to do whatever it might take to grab that sliver of available allotted time to save ourselves. And there was nothing wrong in my idealism. That's kind of my job. But it was really disheartening to see how off target I was, and we are, in the moment in which we live, where our government is busy scrubbing websites of the word climate. Because if you take it away, it doesn't be a problem. It's not going to be a problem anymore. And cutting back on FEMA because those folks dealing with the floods in Asheville and the fires in LA, maybe if you just cut back the bureaucracy, it's not going to be a problem. Wendell Berry, the poet, says, "There are no unsacred places. There are sacred places, and there are desecrated places." And what we're doing is a desecration to our fondest hopes and longings, this very fragile world of which there is no planet B. This is it. The viability of life as we humans have fashioned it. And I'm not worried about the earth. The earth will spin on its axis for eons. But the world in which we would love to give to our children and grandchildren and beyond. That's the deal. And I thought there might be clues in looking back. Perhaps there was another way, another rhetoric that could have spoken better to the moment in which we find ourselves. Now that's hard for a Unitarian Universalist to say. I would have loved for rationality and scientific reason to carry the day. But I think that's why the EUA came up with the idea of the climate revival, which we're having a session today and a session after my sermon on March the 9th. Because there was a sense that maybe we religious liberals need to truly learn to celebrate and to sing and to gather in strength to celebrate the earth as well as save it. And I really am very sympathetic to that. I think it's very wise. I think it's smart of us. And as we await harbingers of a blessed spring, perhaps our nation may find a better path. And certainly, I want to make today an appeal to beauty. And why? Because whatever we were doing wasn't working, or we'd be in a different place right now. Back to that old instinct towards hope. I still possess it. But if the old arguments based on rational analysis, on facts and statistics, well, I just think maybe there's something in the human mind that is curiously resistant to that appeal. And that we Unitarian Universalists need to look deeply within ourselves, and perhaps, and this is the good news, perhaps even into our own spiritual beginnings, and we will find a better and more persuasive path to a better future. And newsflash to Unitarian Universalists, maybe no matter how religious people are or how secular they are, we are still beings who have evolved brains that are more comfortable and therefore more persuadable through the mythic dimension of life, the poetic dimension of life, through art and poetry and music. Does that mean that our science is incorrect? No. Do I think that people are listening to that approach? No, they're not. Not enough, at least, to meet the emergency of the moment. Do I think that we still can? Absolutely. Although barely. We're talking about mitigation now. We're talking about a world that's hotter than the one we wanted to leave, but one that is still viable, still livable, still our precious world. Well, if those old scientific sermons that I so dutifully gave, filled with their facts and figures, if they didn't work the way I would have loved them to, if they didn't possess a haunting sense of another path, then I would suggest an appeal to beauty. Really to speak to the kind of brains, and I would suggest hearts and minds, that we do in fact possess, that we hold in common. What moves us? What motivates us to do hard stuff? What will make us open ourselves when in the past we have shown so little motivation to do so? Well, let me be blunt. It is an appeal to beauty. A sense of commonality that's based on story, art, music, poetry, and yes, religious myth. Now, if we can't reach out to evangelicals, if we can't reach out to Catholics, if we can't reach out to Hindus, if we can't reach out to all kinds of people all over this planet and speak to them in language and imagery that immediately seizes their heart, then nothing will happen. Because we absolutely cannot do it alone. We may think, we may entertain the idea that we know better than others, that we're the enlightened ones. but our numbers cannot carry the day. I was reading on Tuesday in the New York Times about a woman who owned a quilt shop in the eastern hollows of Kentucky, whose house was not washed away last week, but her business, her quilt shop, was. And she was so encouraged that so many neighbors came out to help her. She said, that kind of support makes it hard to ever leave this area, she said. Though it was tempting to think about it amidst the rapid-fire bouts of natural disasters. Besides, she said, this bad weather is everywhere. It's not just us. It's Tennessee. It's West Virginia. And if you move out to California, no way. They have fires, she said. There's no place left to go. These days, no place is safe, as the article ends. Well, James Joyce first thought of taking the title for his book, Ulysses, the phrase, here comes everybody. Well, here comes everybody. There is no safe place. She's exactly right. She may not have voted that way, but she's exactly right. This is all common now. It belongs to everybody. And so therefore, we have to reach everybody in ways that may most deeply affect them. We have to figure out a common language, I believe a spiritual one, that evokes the fragility and the absolute beauty of all that is, that was given to us, and not berate people, not talk over them, not numb them with numbers, and that if it worked, if those strategies had worked, we would not be where we are now. So this appeal to beauty, this appeal to climate revival is so important, and it's not beyond us as Unitarian Universalists. In fact, it lies at the very heart of the beginning of our religious movement. So we need not despair. The tools are at hand and in our very spiritual DNA. Yeah, Thoreau built his little cottage at Walden. And it's true. There's a mythic quality of Thoreau, because he used to walk home and have lunch with his mother every day. And he heard the whistle and the rattle of the Fitchburg line twice a day, as he said, 5 rods from my home. So even at Walden, the modern world as he knew it was impinging. Everything was changing. And yet he wrote, talk of mysteries. Think of our life in nature daily to be shown water, to come in contact with it, rocks, trees, wind at our cheeks, the solid earth, the actual world, the common sense. Contact, contact. Who are we? Where are we? That's what he wrote. That's our message to ourselves. That's our beginning message to one another. To evoke literally the wind at our cheek. Contact. Contact. To save the world, we must see it. We must love it. And we must figure out how to share that love. People have allowed themselves to politicize something that should never be politicized. And we literally have to blast through the blame game and mutual incomprehension of how we talk to each other into human dimensions that we in fact share. And it's the oldest instinct of all. Awe, wonder, gratefulness, and a simple prayer of thank you. What good old transcendentalists thought nearly 200 years ago is that ecology is a science, yes, but ecology is also something close to poetry, something close to meditation. As Gary Schneider said, this living, flowing land is all that is forever. We are it. It sings through us. And as Emerson said, nature and mind and spirit and divinity, you can't separate them. They're one thing. That's ecology. That's true ecology. And when we remember this oneness, then we've got a shot, then we got a chance. Yes, talk about the environment, but be aware that if we talk about this fragile gift from a divine giver, more people are going to hear us and maybe understand all that we are trying to save together. We can speak to and speak with the psalmist who said, I lift my eyes up into the hills from whence cometh my help. We need help right now. And where does the psalmist ask for this help? From the maker of earth, stars, and sun. An appeal to beauty. Meister Eckhart said in the Middle Ages, here God's ground, and my ground is God's ground. And the ground that we all happen to share, because the word human comes from humus, which is dirt, our ground. It's the ground of all that is and ever will be. A long, long time ago, and maybe we need to be more comfortable with language like this because it might communicate with people that right now we're not in communication with. From Isaiah 24, the earth dries up and withers. The world languishes and withers. The earth lies polluted under its inhabitants, for they have transgressed laws and violated the statutes and broken the everlasting covenant. And what is that covenant? It's the ground we stand on. It is that very precious thing that is woven into reality. And yet there must be something more, one step more, than merely evoking this covenant, this ground. And it's got to move past Jeremids, and it has to become a covenant of the heart. I think, Ray, that's what Jesse was trying to say earlier. The ecologist Aldo Leppert says, we can be ethical only in relation to something that we can see, feel, understand, love, and otherwise have faith in. So we need to feel and love each other, even when they are driving us crazy, and we've seen them do self-denying and potentially suicidal actions, politically and otherwise. Because this beautiful world expects us to think out of the box and to learn a new language that speaks to one another. Because we actually have, even in the midst of this fraught climate, love. Have faith in them and in ourselves as well. Because the ecological struggle is, in its essence, I believe, a spiritual one. Because how can you destroy this earth and say that you believe? And being a spiritual struggle, it is more easily translated and communicated than we can possibly know. And it need not devolve into an argument as much as rise to a connection and to a relationship. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about real simple stuff like people's appreciation that they can draw a clean breath, or to hear a newborn's cry, to see a sunset, a heron's call. Edward Abbey, who can be very funny and very harsh, said at the end of his life of ecological writing, even in the midst of his frustration, he says, sympathy for the object under study, and more than study, love. A love based on prolonged contact and interaction, informed by sympathy, love, and intuition. Is any of this easy? Well, we know that it isn't. But I believe it is a far better way to try to reach those sympathies. It's a better track to be on. It is an appeal to beauty. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but it's the right track to be on. And we need it to work, because time is pressing. We need to sing this stuff together. An appeal to beauty is just that. It is a recognition, belated or not, that we can be lovers of all that has made us capable of love at all. An entry into this mysterious realm that's given us birth and sustained us and held us, which, if we can but summon the sympathy and wisdom to love each other back, we will survive. We will save not merely ourselves, but the future itself. Amen. Well, Desi suggested we sing Blue Boat Home. So it's in your teal book, 1064. It's probably the most beautiful of our modern hymns. 1064, Blue Boat Home. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now may peace, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge of love. May this peace be yours in the week to come. Folk group, we want you back.
Yes, we're going to ask you to sing along again. This song, Sailing Up, Sailing Down, comes from the singing of the crew on the Hudson River sloop Clearwater. The Clearwater is a 106-foot wooden sailboat that was built in 1969 by Pete Seeger and a group of friends to sail up and down the Hudson to bring to the people to the shore of the Hudson to see what it was like and to clean up the Hudson. So we're going to sing now about cleaning up the Hudson. So it's a call and response song. So we're going to start out by sailing up, sailing down. We're going to sing sailing up, you're going to respond sailing down. We've got Ellen here to help you along to know what to sing when. Now the second part is a little trickier. You repeated the first time. The second part, we're going to say up, and you're going to say down. And we're going to say down, and you're going to say up. Ellen's going to tell you how to do that. The next two lines are the same sing-along, and they're the same in all the verses, and the first lines you'll catch up as we go along. So, sailing up, sailing down.
Sailing up, sailing up, sailing down, sailing down, up, down, down, up and down the river, sailing on, stopping all along the way. Wherever may be dirty now, but it's getting cleaner every day. Garbage here, garbage there, garbage there, here, there.
That's good.
Nice job. That was great. Great intro.
Let's go.